Hi,
Okay.
Victoria. It's so nice to have you here today and to learn more about you. We're sort of starting at ground zero, but I want to just start by saying I absolutely love the work you do, and I know almost nothing about it. So, welcome. And can we
Thank
just
you.
start by please tell me a little bit about yourself and the golden thread that seems to has have been this interesting piece of your life from a very early age.
Sure. I had a very strange journey to get to where I am, but it all seemed kind of out of focus until it all came into focus. So it started as I was a classical ballet dancer on scholarship at Joffrey Ballet very early on in the 80s. And then I went to school, went to college for musical theater. I fell in love with classical acting and directing. I went to London and studied, came back and decided I didn't want to go to New York. I'll go to Chicago. I moved to Chicago and I became a massage therapist because I didn't want to work in offices anymore, although I was very technically computer oriented already in the early 90s. Um, I wanted to be with people. So I became a massage therapist and I was acting and directing and then left theater to join a rock and roll band. And then I had my own band because I was writing my own music. And then all my friends in theater said, "Hey, will you come back and compose music for theater and do the sound effects and design for theater?" And I was like, "I think I can do that. Let me try." And I started that and it took off as a career. And I was doing it for many decades. And I continued my massage therapy, my holistic life. My father's a physician, my brother's a surgeon. We're a very medical family. It seemed normal to me to continue that healing, helping side of my life. And then I started getting into sound therapy. I, at this point, was teaching at DePaul University. I built the sound design program there for the theater school. And I started incorporating how the body interprets sound and vibration in order to affect the limbic system to tell a story, an emotional journey of an audience, right? How do you get an audience to feel things in a theater en masse as a group? So I started delving into how the brain perceives sound and perceives music and perceives dissonance and consonance and then how does that affect the emotional life of your in the body. So horror movies without the soundtrack are nothing, right? So like that's more of an evolutionary response of fight or flight that sound and vibration can do. But then there was also like the associational response of this music makes me feel a certain way. So I kind of really delved into that. I wrote a book about how to perceive sound and how to then to put that back to an audience. And then COVID hit and we couldn't do theater. So I'm like, I can finally delve into sound therapy, like for real. And I became certified. I got clients. I started really going into that world. And I saw the most amazing transitions with my clients that I was having it just transformed my life, really. It changed everything. And so then I had met Joanna Pena Bickley. She was interviewing me for her podcast, Designed By, because I was a female sound designer and there's not very many of us. So she was saying that, and I now am the caregiver to my two elderly parents. So I have recently like quit my job, moved down to Florida, and I'm taking care of them. But as I was thinking of moving, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to leave my clients without any sound therapy. And I offhandedly to Joanna said, I want to build an app about, sound therapy to make it more accessible to people because it was at that time was very challenging to find sound therapists that were truly integrative and therapeutic. And it wasn't, there were a lot of sound baths and bowls during yoga and stuff like that, but there wasn't really much in the form of like, I'm actually going to work with you one-on-one therapeutically. And didn't want to leave my clients in a lurch, so I had mentioned to her I would love to build an app for this, and then Vibes AI came around, and I've been working on that while I've been taking care of my parents, and so all of that to say is that the dance, interpreting music and sound into body and form, to then switching it around to seeing form on stage and creating the audio for that form on stage, to then really understanding how music and sound and vibration affects a human body and bringing that into the holistic world is how it all kind of congealed together. So that's like my crazy long path to get to like where I am now.
As you share it, though, it seems like the most incredible, perfect path
Yeah.
to get you where you are. And I'm really fascinated by the entire vibrational piece of
Hmm.
how our bodies themselves, I would love for you to share with us a little bit deeper into the science of our bodies and vibration
Sure.
and healing and how that works, because unless you're um, looking for it specifically on YouTube, it wasn't in my realm specifically as even a director of wellness. If we had a class on it, it was sort of, oh, and by the way, there's a class, but I'm starting to sense that it's a much deeper connection to our overall well-being, and I would love to hear from you what that looks like.
Sure. So it works on many different levels. You can talk about resonance, you can talk about vibration. I mean, I think you have to start with everything in this world vibrates and moves. And with vibration, if something is moving, right, when it pushes in the air, it creates an atmospheric pressure. When it pulls, it creates rarefaction underneath, and then it becomes this wave. So it's kind of like in water, you can see it if you drop a pebble in water, right? That would be the source of sound. That push is the same thing that happens in the air with everything that vibrates around us. So in the quantum physics world, we are in an electromagnetic field of energy where there is this constant flow of atmospheric pressure change. And the amount of cycles per second creates the frequency. That's when people start talking about frequency. In a second, if it goes up and down in that path of pressure and then no pressure, pressure and then no pressure, right? If it does that 50 times in a second, that's 50 hertz. If it does it 432 times in that second, it's 432 hertz. If it does it like our microwaves, like 500,000 times per second, that's 500,000 times in a second. That it would be 500 and 530, 500,000 hertz, right? So our radio frequencies go up to really high in microwave, 5G, all of that is really, really high, fast, energetic. That's why it actually excites the oxygen molecules in your microwave and heats your food. That's what it's doing. So it's moving things around. So we're taking that extreme deck down to like our normal bodies. So there's that factor of the actual frequency of what is hitting your body in that stream from that sound. The other part is the resonance in our body, where the resonance is really being affected by the fact that our bodies are mostly made up of water or liquid fluid. And sound travels faster in fluid than it does in something solid or even in the air. It's fastest in water. And when your whole body resonates, that you are literally vibrating at the same vibration. That is why scary movies will affect you when you feel the subwoofer in a theater of that low end. So those waves are about 5 or 6 feet in in diameter when they're coming at you. They're big waves. Those low ones are big waves. The fast ones, the high ones, are really small waves. So depending on how good you get at feeling waves or energy, then you can tell if it's low or high, even in the way your body is resonating. That's when you get really attuned to that thing when you're used to working in it. So you can work off of frequency, which really goes towards the cognitive health because MIT did studies about 40 hertz especially, and 40 hertz seems to the gamma wave frequency because your brain, when in different states that it's in, whether it's from sleeping to being active, in those different states that it's in, um, those are specific frequencies of brain wave state. So, brainwave entrainment is a typical neurological um, definition of when you want to entrain your brainwave to be a certain state. So, MIT did a study with 40 hertz with light and sound to see if they could entrain the brain to go into that alpha state. So, the reason why they did this is because as you age, you get depleted in the alpha state, which is what brings on the cognitive decline and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and all of those issues, right? It's not like you're just depleted. It's not a deficiency. It's not nothing's wrong with your brain. It's just that it's depleted. So they're like, well, what happens if we just give it back? Like, let's give it back binaurally. So binaural tones are two different tones in each ear, which are separated by that 40 hertz. In the brain, because you have a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere, interprets that as 40 hertz because it brings it together. So it brings those two waves together in your brain and creates that 40 hertz wave. It's also creating the left and right hemisphere. So binaurally, that seems to help with neuroplasticity between the hemispheres of the brain. But it also is replenishing that 40 hertz, which you could also give isochronically just back to people automatically. And they found that it was at first mitigating decline of any kind of neurological or cognitive function. And then they realized that it was actually helping if they were doing an hour, I think it was like an hour a week was the study at first. And then they've been going more and more in depth since they found this because it was this big aha moment of we can just replenish this. So there's a frequency work that works neurologically, but the resonance work helps really with full body, autonomic nervous system, vagus nerve, and vagal tone. It's there's so many different benefits that I could go into, whether it's cardiological, respiratory, or simply energetic. So if you come down to the Heart Math Association did a study to see how far the energy field, your biofield extends, and it's about 6 feet away outside of your body. That bioelectric field that we are in, that we create because everything in our body is in motion. All our cells are in motion. All of our fluid is in motion. We create our own frequency of what that is because it's vibrating. And in that vibration, we are creating an atmospheric pressure change just by around us. So that tends to be our 6 foot field. So you can work with that where it's depleted and where it's not depleted, or where it's excessive or not excessive. That's kind of how you would affect it through the whole body. So there are different ways that you can kind of come to it, is my answer to that. That's a long and long-winded question answer.
Exactly. So I tend to go to very practical. So with something like this, and
Hmm.
my most current favorite thing to do in the mornings is to hum. And
Hmm.
you mentioned the vagus nerve. Can you
Yeah.
share with us the benefits of humming or oming, and what other practical tools might someone use as they start learning for themselves? Like one moment, I think I know a lot about wellness, and then the next, I'm having a conversation with you and realizing how little I know about what feels like a very important um, discovery for our evolution.
Yeah, it's funny that, I have been obsessed with sound for a very long time because I've been working in it for so long, that for me it feels really natural and normal. But I'm realizing as I come up against people that it's not, we purposefully don't hear, like if we heard everything one to one of the vibrations in the world around us, it would probably drive us mad. So we purposely selectively hear, like we won't hear after a while a drum, like the drone of a fluorescent light or a hum of an HVAC. We'll cancel it out because we don't need to hear that anymore. Our brain's like, I don't need to hear that. I'm not going to listen to that. So we start selectively hearing. So we purposefully don't hear. So it's not surprising to me that people don't think necessarily or have that in-depth kind of curiosity about how vibration or hearing actually helps the body. So you're not alone. That is a normal human thing, is to not pay attention to your hearing. So anyway, we were questioning about the vagus nerve and humming. So the coolest thing I think about humming is that it gets the nitric oxide that's in your sinus cavity into your body and into your system. That is the coolest thing. That vibration just in here releases nitric oxide, and nitric oxide creates better circulation, which then creates better healing. So it automatically, just chemically, is actually changing your body. On top of that, the vibration of humming really goes into your chest a lot too, and like it's all of this area, right? That is, if we break it down to chakras, your heart, your throat, your third eye, crown, even that, those are expressive places. So the bottom ones are like your roots, your root chakra, your sacral chakra, it's your gut, your will, your determination. It's all of that stuff, right? When you get up into the higher ones, you're in the middle ones are more of like emotional and expression, and then you go into creativity, inspiration, all of that stuff. So that's also part of it too. Um, what I find also fascinating is that those are like, oh, chakras, that I'm like, yeah, but chakras are exactly where the nerve plexes are. Like it's not by accident that, the sacral chakra is at the sacral plexus. If you're putting anatomy to chakras, those are your energy centers. So humming really helps tone that. And the vagus nerve obviously comes down through here into your heart and into your gut and then back up again. So when you're humming and you're activating vibration in this area, it is definitely going to create coherence. When you create coherence, a body in coherence can heal itself. That's the best thing about it. So not only does it actually activate the nitric oxide chemically in your system, but it also is creating the vibrational tone that you need in this area, which is where the vagus nerve sits. So
That to me
it's
is
really fascinating.
yeah, that's a
Yeah, yeah.
wonderful, fascinating. Love all of that and hope to encourage others to learn more about the work you do, learn more about other ways that we may be able to understand how this vibration impacts us. And the other thing
Hmm.
that comes to mind, and I'd love your take on it, is a thought about, and again, I go to the practical side, how might we think about what I would call noise pollution and
Mm.
the amount of noise that is in around us at any given time, and what is the impact on us over time?
Uh, I think there are many studies that could be made about that. There have been noise pollution studies as far as like living in a city versus, something urban versus rural, that kind of thing. But when you think about vibration pollution, not noise necessarily, but all of the wireless, the electromagnetic fields, stuff that is in the air around us, and it's everywhere now. Um, that it's hard to shake it. It's hard to get rid of it. Hard to be in a place that doesn't exist. I mean, I tend to continually go out in nature. I don't bring my phone with me. I don't wear earbuds that are Bluetooth. I mean, I do for this because it's obviously more convenient, but you have to choose your convenience. But I tend to go back into how can I get the furthest away from anything, and try to get my feet barefoot on the ground to ground myself electromagnetically, um, and just try to clear the system. There's no avoiding it at this point. So now it's about how do you make it so it doesn't affect you, and what's the best way to clear it from you energetically, and that can be sound baths too. I mean, coherence is when the sound waves basically wash away any kind of interference. So that's what coherence really is about in the sound world. So when you are coherent energetically, you have kind of cleared away all the disturbances and all of the other things that are impacting you. So you want to try to stay in coherence. So meditation works, yoga works, sound baths work, flotation tank. Oh my God, sensory deprivation floating is amazing. Anything that can kind of just get you away for a little bit to be quiet which is a perceived quiet, but a perceived quiet on your own is a way to kind of handle it in a sense. But it's probably the fault of many of the dis-ease that we have in this world right now is because of that. I think personally.
I'm starting to wonder much more about it, especially as I am seeing the benefits of my humming, oming practice, as I call it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Also, the just stark difference of being in the house versus being in nature. And might you say a little bit more about the power then of being in nature and what you find and what you know to the science to be?
Well, it's everything that human beings should be in that we're not. So we have built this world that we are in boxes indoors. Like I'm in Florida, so there's air conditioning. It is an artificial world, you know, it's not necessarily what we're built to be in. Um, so, to me personally, it's a chance to see true color, true sunlight, to feel what it's like to be an electromagnetic being in an electromagnetic space that is the correct electromagnetic grounding for you. It is everything to me. And it's funny. I've been so addicted to nature all my life. I grew up in central New York, and we would constantly be camping. And my father was raising cattle at one point, so we were on the farm and learned how to grow food. And it's always been a part of my life. I've had my hands in dirt for since I was a child, and so I can't live without it. I was not brought up indoors necessarily, So to me, that the benefit is that it returns us back to who we are, and it's interesting because a lot of people rely on meditation or like a practice of a sense to bring them back to themselves. And to me, the quickest way is to just get out in nature. I don't have to do anything. I can just, all of a sudden, I am myself. I'm quiet. I'm there. Like it's not, I know who I am. I know my spirit. I know my body. I know everything. I know my thoughts. It's just kind of a return to who I am and who I should be, even when I'm in the artificial world. So.
Love, and yes, I practice the same. So thank you for just that
Yeah.
validation. So I want to shift because the reason we
Mhm.
met is because I was invited on LinkedIn to attend a session about vibes. And I would love to hear because I've tried it. I've had a scratchy voice, so I've not used it every day because I think it maybe impacts it, maybe it doesn't, but I want to get back into using it because I think it's fascinating and it was so easy to use. It is so easy to use. So I would love for you to share a little bit about it. You shared earlier on how you've been working to create this app. I find that it's really different because I want to use it. I want to see sort of what my voice does. So maybe start at the beginning on that and share because I'd love for people to get a chance to try it out.
Sure. Um, it's so my side of it is really the sound therapy side of it, but there's two sides to this. There's the diagnostic voice biomarker side of it, and then there's the sound therapy on the therapeutic side of it. So basically, what we're trying to do is have a simple and effective way to calculate your brain health and then help shift your state according to where you find yourself right then and there in the moment. So, what we were finding was that people don't really think about their brain health for the majority of their life until it's really starting to decline. And if they do, they go to a doctor's office. If they go to a doctor's office, they might do a voice biomarker test because that's now becoming clinical, which is kind of great. But I know, but it relied on a lot of like EEG and testing and, different kind of cognitive tests that were done on paper, like all of this other stuff. So and very expensive. So we wanted to make this a little bit more accessible. People were already moving towards wearables like Whoop and Aura to track their heart rate variability, to track their sleep, to track their, athletic performance, to, they're tracking their steps, everything basically. So we're like, why are we not tracking our brain health at this? So there are 500 voice biomarkers that help calculate your brain health. So let me explain a little bit about the voice biomarker system because speaking is one of the most intricate and complicated things that we do as human beings because we have to take a thought, we have to form that thought into vocabulary. That vocabulary then has to come out through our mouth, and through this, we have tone from our vocal cords, breath support. Like we know exactly how much breath we need for the sentence we're about to speak. I mean, sometimes we can continue on. Let's see if I can do it, how long I can actually last in a sentence without knowing how long I was going to speak. There. So, we know already how long we're going to speak. And so then we have to use the teeth, the tongue and the lips in order to form the words. So it's a lot of different neurological things that are happening at once. There's a lot of cardiovascular vascular work and respiratory work that happens in speaking. So voice biomarkers are being found now that AI can catch things that the human ear doesn't really catch, like your vocal cords kind of shimmering or jittering, or you don't have enough breath support, or there's a little bit more latency in between your words today than there was yesterday. And if you are testing every day, then you get this kind of longevity path that you can then see if there's a change. If there's a change, then it'll show up. Like, hey, for the last 5 days, your vocal cords have been jittering. You might want to check that, so then you check what that is. So I would say if your voice is hoarse, you should do it anyway and see what the score is, because I would love to know what that is. Um, because it's part of it, right? The reason why you don't have the breath, or the reason why your vocal cords are tired or something. Yeah. So that's the voice biomarker side of it. There are 500 of them that can calculate different types of neurological issues. And so we have people record 30 seconds of their voice. Now, they're not recording for listening on what you're saying. It's listening for how you're saying it. It's listening to the frequency, the tone, the speed, the breath, the jitter, the all of that stuff. It's not actually listening to what you're saying. It's not a language model. It's a sound model. It's frequency. And then I have taken all of my sound therapy tracks and associated them according to the brain readiness score that you come up with from the voice biomarker system. So let's say as the voice biomarker comes up, it says, "Hey, it looks like you're a little bit anxious right now," or you're preparing for a meeting, or something's coming up. That it will then suggest different audio that you can listen to. And in those are the sound therapy that would then help with your autonomic nervous system and your vagal tone and all of that to kind of get you back into a state that is coherent. So the way we've dealt with the score is that as you go up in score, you're more and more coherent to flow state. So even if you're depleted, you'll be a low score. And if you are in critical overload, you'll be a low score as well. So then it's all about coherence. So as you go up the scale, you're getting more and more coherent. The more coherent you get, the more function you have, the more creativity you have, the more you can work, the more you can do things, the more you can even sleep. So you want to get to coherence. So in effect, it's a closed loop system in an app that is working, that you do the voice biomarker test first, and then that comes back with the audio, and then you can test it again, and you can have another audio. You can even search for different audios if you need to. If you want something more specific that you want to look around and play around, you can look for other things too. So it's kind of like this place where everybody can have a little bit more ability to get sound therapy that's really tailored to them specifically in this moment, which is the whole idea of sound therapy, is that you want it to be about who you are right now in this moment in your energy field at this time. So it's about reclaiming that power of being who you are right now, in a sense, if that makes
I,
sense.
no, I absolutely love it. And it aligns incredibly well with the work we're doing in my class at Stanford Continuing Studies, the neuroscience of leadership and emotional mastery. And it's one of the things that could be this, what a great tool for measuring where we are. And,
Mhm.
I encourage everyone to just observe where we are and to pay attention without judgment. And this seems like what a great way to do it. I know that in another class that I work with, it's recommended to use the heart rate variability app,
Mhm.
and you tie it around you. And I found it a little cumbersome to get the heart rate variability in
Sure.
that moment, where something like this, for me to be able to just push a button, record, and then find out where it is. To me, it's fascinating, and it's so
Mhm.
very different than other things that other tools. And there's a lot of good tools out there. This one, I'm actually, that's why I reached out to you. That's why we're having this conversation, because the maybe it's just me getting older too. I appreciate the vibration, the energy, the sound, the humming. As I said, I feel that humming is something I wish I would have used when I was a teenager. When I had the anxiety I had as a teenager, it never occurred to me to hum. Would I sing songs sometimes and feel better? Yeah, I was in the 80s,
Mhm.
some
Right.
music back there warming
Sure.
up for our track meets. For me, a track meets, for you it was different, but we still probably had the vibe on our music. And for me, it
Yep.
was always
Totally.
uplifting, and I understood. I always had back when the radio, right before I got my first Walkman, if my favorite song came on, it was going to be the best day. Like I just knew,
Right.
because I would be sort of living to that vibration, for lack of a name, that I
Exactly.
would be just happy, and my thoughts were going to be, because
Mhm.
self-fulfilling prophecy. But I've been playing with all of these things for years and years and years, just not really taking the time or understanding or having the beautiful story you have of this life you've created, that now you can help other people understand this. And I personally think that this is huge. And I don't know how else to
I
say
do
it. It's
too.
huge.
I do too. I think it's going to change everything once people get it. That's the thing. Like, and it really does take doing it. So even I always knew that I wanted to kind of live in that space, which is why I became a sound therapist, because I wanted my day to be full of my crystal bowls and Tibetan bowls. And I wanted that in my space all the time, right? So I didn't know why necessarily when I first started. I just was so addicted to that feeling that I wanted it all the time. And so then when I was taking care of my parents, I was creating the audio for the app for Vibes, and I was using the audio, building the audio, and using the audio, and building the audio, and using. So for the past 2.5 years, I've been doing it every single day, and I have to say that I have no brain fog. My vocabulary has come back. I'm completely in coherence. I sleep well. I have lost weight. All of this stuff just kind of flew. Like the body just reacts the way it's supposed to react. And so like I am the living like a conversion from somebody who kind of did it before into like now that I've done it all the time, that it's just changed everything in my life. So as much as I can get people to do it and experience it and just keep turning it, I'm like literally just put it on the background. Like it doesn't matter. Put it on in the background. And even while you're doing something, like put it on in the background. So that's kind of like where I am right now. I'm like just trying to spread the word and like just have people do it because it changes everything and it's free. It's like, it's sound. It's vibration.
It's beautiful. It's
Yep.
wonderful. I want to support you on this journey because I see the value in it, and it aligns, beautifully well to the work that I've been doing and some of my colleagues. So I just so appreciate you being here. We will leave some more notes in the comments
Yeah, sure.
us to share a little bit more about how to access the app and some more about you, so they can follow you and go to your website and just learn more
Yep.
about what I believe is, hopefully even the future of medicine. I've been seeing some things, and maybe we'll close with
I
that.
hope so.
What's happening in medicine with
Yep.
sound healing?
Well, right now, targeted ultrasound is huge because the medical industry already was using ultrasound. So they have been t using targeted ultrasound to do things like to get like for Parkinson's, they were using it to get medicine through the blood-brain barrier by exciting the blood-brain barrier and having the oxygen spread so it kind of separates the cells enough so that the medicine can get to the brain. So, which is a little bit more of like a Western medicine technique to use therapy for, but I find it fascinating. It's still the same thing, it's still effective vibration on the body. So, I'm hoping it'll get there. I think consumers may force the medical industry into it if they get so attuned to it and used to it. And like I can't imagine that they won't bring that into the field. I think that's part of it. My brother, a funny story, when he I was staying with him and he had a tuning fork in his office. And I was like, you have a 128 tuning fork. Like, this is a really great tuning fork. He's like, oh, yeah, we got it the first day of medical school. And I said, really? What did you do with it in medical school? And he's like, oh, well, you can diagnose with it in medical school. And I said, what do you diagnose? He's like, and I'm smiling because I'm like, I know what you diagnose. And he's like, well, you can check if there's broken bones. If you put it on a broken bone, it'll hurt. If you don't put it, if it's not broken, it won't hurt. And I was just like, okay. And I said, and then what did you do with that tuning fork? He's like, nothing. We never touched it again. And I was like that tuning fork is like it creates nitric oxide when you put it on the body. Like it brings fresh blood to the area. So it's just fascinating that it's kind of like medical industry kind of has it, but it's not quite, the full
I
scope
need a
of
tuning fork. I need a tuning fork.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just fun.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank you so much for this. I'm hoping we can put a few resources in
Sure.
even
Sure, sure.
because I don't know, I'm on to go down the rabbit hole and I'd love for a little guidance from you. So thank you so
Oh, I
much.
would love that.
I think
So
we'll
our
be
app is coming out in September. We're in beta testing right now, but should be out beginning of September. So we're close. We're very close.
wonderful. And maybe
Yep.
we are still looking for some beta testers. Is
Yep.
that
Sure.
okay? Okay. So we're in
Yep.
2026. I just want to make sure we timestamp this for anyone who's
Yeah,
looking. So
sure.
it sounds like the summer of 2026 is a time to do maybe some beta testing. We'll leave some information about that.
Yeah.
And then
That'd
the
be
app
great.
will be available, it sounds like, for purchase in September.
Mhm. Yep, exactly.
Wonderful.
Well, there'll be a free version too, and then obviously a more in-depth purchase subscription version. A typical app.
Even better.
So,
I'm excited
yep.
for you, and I'm going to be following your success because I think this is really, really special. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Patty. Thank you.